Hey everybody, welcome to another lesson of learning Japanese. In our previous video, we covered the dictionary form or the negative nai form of a verb plus the phrasing yo ni suru to mean that the subject of the sentence makes an effort to make it so that verb or tries to make it so that verb. In this video, we're going to cover a really similar topic, and that is using either the dictionary form, the potential form, or the negative nai form of a verb plus the phrasing yo ni naru to basically express a similar state of change, only this time the grammar construct is going to express an intransitive change of state. So if we were to convey this in English, if last video's grammar construct translated to something along the lines of the subject of the sentence makes an effort so that this verb happens, then in this video, this grammar construct is going to translate to something along the lines of it has become such that verb is possible, or verb happens, or just verb. And then the final thing worth noting here before we jump into the examples is that with this grammar pattern, the emphasis is going to be basically on the result, the change of state, as opposed to the means that that change happened. So in some sentences that use or employ this grammar construct, you may see or notice that the reasoning behind the change of state isn't explicitly mentioned because it's just implied, and the speaker of the sentence is probably just trying to emphasize the actual result as opposed to how it came to be about. To kind of express that sense of priority, let's jump into our first example. For our line, we have 16歳の時に運転し始めるようになりました. And what this sentence is saying is that it has become possible to start driving at 16 years old, or 16 years of age. And before we break down the sentence bit by bit, we can see what I was trying to say earlier. Hopefully, we know that the result of whatever happened is that now we can start driving at the age of 16, but we didn't particularly say what the reason was. Maybe there was some kind of amendment passed, but that's just it. We don't really need to explicitly mention that because we are more focused on the end result here. Okay, so now let's analyze the sentence. First up, we have 16, which is just 16. After that, we have the word sai, so that means years or age basically. So that combines with 16, 16 to be 16 years old or 16 years of age. After that, we have the particle no, because we're going to use that construction of a noun. So no is connecting 16 sai and what word comes after it, which is toki, which means time. So basically that translates to the time of 16 years old. More naturally, I guess the time in which one is 16 years of age. 16歳の時. We have the particle ni right after toki, and basically this is just going to mean that toki ni means at the time of, and the thing that follows after of is 16 years old. So that becomes at the time of 16 years old, basically. Moving along into the sentence, we have unten suru, which is a verbal noun. It means to drive. Here, suru is going to be in its primos form, which is she, because we're using the primos form of a verb plus hajimeru to mean to start verbing. This is a grammar construct that we've covered pretty recently in a previous video. So unten shi hajimeru is to start driving. Here we're going to leave hajimeru in its dictionary form because now we're going to finally employ this grammar construct that's in discussion here, and dictionary form is one of the three forms that we can use, so we're going to do that. So we leave hajimeru as hajimeru, and now all we have to do is add the phrasing yo ni naru afterwards, and naru is going to be conjugated to narimashita, which is the past polite tense. In this grammar construct, it is almost always used in the past tense, just because when you're trying to say it has become something, it basically means that it already happened and you want to convey that it already happened. So again, all together, the sentence reads 16歳の時に運転し始めるようになりました. For our next example sentence, we're going to use a potential form verb, and our line is 日本語のマンガが読めるようになりました. And what this sentence translates to is I have become able to read Japanese manga. This is a pretty simple sentence. Let's break it down. First up, we have Nihongo no manga. This is again that no particle modifying two nouns to make it a noun of a noun. So Nihongo no manga is just going to be Japanese manga. After manga, we have the particle ga. We're not using o here because we're about to use the potential form of a verb, and we replace the o with the ga when we're doing that. So Nihongo no manga ga yomeru. Yomeru is the potential form of the verb yomu, to read. And since it's in its potential form, now all we have to really do is just add that phrasing that is a part of this grammar constructs guideline. So after yomeru comes yo ni naru. Of course, we're going to conjugate naru into its past tense again because, like I said, it's almost always used in the past tense. So Nihongo no manga ga yomeru you ni narimashita is going to translate to it has become such that I can read Japanese manga, or more naturally, I have become able to read Japanese manga. For our last example sentence, we are going to use the negative nai form of a verb with this grammar construct, but there's an important thing to note before we go into the actual example. The technical construction of this grammar construct when using a negative nai form with it would basically just be the negative nai form of the verb plus yo ni naru. However, for whatever reason, it's actually more natural to use the negative nai form of the verb, drop the e at the end of that form, adding the particle ku, and then adding naru after that. So basically, it's going to be naku naru instead of nai yo ni naru. And I say that's the more natural way to do it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the more naturally technical way is the wrong way. You could use that too, it would just be less natural. So for our example, we'll use both just to get a feel of both of them. For whatever reason, you might need the less natural one, I guess. So for our sentence, we have the line, あの人の顔が覚えられないようになりました. Or alternatively, it can be あの人の顔が覚えられなくなりました. So the first one was using the more technical way that you would think it to mean given the guidelines of the grammar construct, and the second one was the more natural way that is much more widely used. Let's break down the sentence. First up, we have あの人, that just means that person. After that, we have no kao, so this is going to be the noun of a noun construct once again. The word kao means face, so it's basically the face of that person's face. After kao, we have the particle ga, which is then directly followed by the verb oboeru in its negative potential form, which is oboerareru, which is oboerarenai. In the more technical version of this grammar construct, we're simply just going to follow oboerarenai with the phrasing yo ni narimashita. However, in the more natural way, we're going to take that oboerarenai, take out that final e at the end, drop it, replace it with the particle ku, then add naru after it, but in this case we're going to conjugate naru into narimashita just like always. So that's going to turn out to be oboerarenaku narimashita. And since that's oboeru in its negative potential form, that is going to be not able to remember, but in this case, if we combine it with the grammar construct, that means it has become such that basically it's gonna more naturally translate to can no longer remember. And so we combine that with the rest of the sentence, and all together again we have あの人の顔が覚えられないようになりました or あの人の顔が覚えられなくなりました which translates to I can no longer remember that person's face, something along those lines. And yeah, that is using the grammar construct, the dictionary form or the potential form or the negative nai form of a verb plus the phrasing yo ni naru in its past tense almost always to mean that it has become such that. And we used an example of each one in this video as far as I remember, and hopefully that gives a good idea of how this works. This is becoming a more common thing than not that I need to say, but this is actually just one of a few or a number of ways to express this kind of idea that it has become such that something is possible or something is happening. So in the future, we might just very well cover different grammar patterns that mean something very similar. So it's good to remember the important part of this one in which the emphasis is on the actual result and not necessarily the means in which it occurred. Things are going to get pretty complicated when we have so many options to say something that we think it's really simple to say and we just don't really know which one to use in certain cases. So it's good to remember that, like I just said. And yeah.